In a quiet valley, surrounded by rolling green hills and a winding silver river, there stood a small village called Willowmere. It was the kind of place where mornings began with the sound of birdsong, and evenings ended beneath skies full of stars. The villagers lived simple lives. Farmers worked in the fields, fishermen cast their nets into the river, bakers filled the air with the smell of fresh bread, and children spent their days running through meadows and climbing trees. Nothing remarkable ever seemed to happen in Willowmere, and most of its people liked it that way. They believed the world beyond the hills was full of mysteries and dangers, while their little village remained safe and peaceful. Yet, there was one boy who often wondered what secrets might be hiding beyond the horizon. His name was Oliver. Oliver was 12 years old, with messy brown hair, curious blue eyes, and a habit of asking questions that nobody else thought to ask. Unlike the other children, he was not interested in proving how fast he could run or how high he could climb. Instead, he preferred spending long hours alone beneath the great oak tree that stood on the edge of the village. The tree was ancient, older than anyone could remember. Its massive branches stretched across the sky like giant arms, and its roots disappeared deep into the earth. Many villagers simply passed by it without giving it a second thought. But Oliver loved the old oak. He often sat beneath its shade and listened to the sounds of the world around him. He listened to the birds singing in distant branches, the rustling of leaves dancing in the breeze, the gentle murmur of the river flowing over smooth stones, and the soft whispers of the wind as it wandered through the valley. The wind fascinated Oliver more than anything else. He could never explain why. Sometimes it arrived carrying the scent of pine forests from distant hills. Sometimes it smelled like rain long before clouds appeared in the sky. Other times it felt almost alive, as if it were trying to tell a story that only he could hear. Whenever Oliver mentioned this to other people, they laughed kindly and told him he had a very active imagination. Even his parents smiled whenever he spoke about listening to the wind. They loved him dearly, but they believed he spent too much time daydreaming. Oliver never argued. Deep inside, he knew there was something special about those whispers carried on the breeze. Even if he couldn't prove it, one bright autumn afternoon, Oliver sat beneath the old oak as golden leaves drifted lazily through the air. The sky above was clear and blue, and the village seemed peaceful as always. His best friend Emma soon appeared along the path carrying a basket filled with apples. Emma was the only person who never completely dismissed Oliver's strange ideas. She often teased him about them, but she always listened. "There you are," Emma said as she sat beside him. "I knew I'd find you talking to trees again." Oliver laughed. "I don't talk to trees, no. Emma asked with a grin. Then, what exactly are you doing out here, all by yourself? I'm listening. Listening to what? The wind. Emma rolled her eyes dramatically, though she was smiling. And what wisdom has the wind shared today? Oliver glanced toward the distant hills. It sounds sad. Emma blinked. Sad. Yes. How can wind sound sad? Oliver struggled to explain. It wasn't really a sound. It was more of a feeling. The breeze carried a strange loneliness that day, as if something far away had been lost and was desperately trying to find its way home. He simply shrugged. I don't know, he admitted. It just does. Emma handed him an apple. You think too much. Maybe. Definitely. The two friends laughed together as the afternoon passed. Yet even as he smiled, Oliver couldn't shake the strange feeling growing inside him. Something was different. Something felt wrong. The peaceful valley seemed unchanged, but somewhere beyond the hills, unseen by anyone in Willowmere, a problem was slowly beginning to unfold. That evening, as the sun disappeared behind the mountains and painted the sky with shades of gold and crimson, Oliver returned home. His family's cottage stood near the river, surrounded by climbing roses and small vegetable gardens. Inside, the warm glow of lantern light filled the rooms. His mother prepared supper while his father repaired old fishing nets beside the fireplace. The familiar smells and sounds made the cottage feel safe and comforting. During dinner, Oliver tried to ignore the uneasy feeling that had followed him all day. How was your afternoon? His mother asked. Good, Oliver replied. His father smiled. Spend another day listening to the wind. Oliver groaned. Not this again. His parents laughed. There are worse hobbies, his mother said kindly. After supper, Oliver helped clean the dishes before climbing the narrow staircase to his room. His bedroom was small but cozy, with a wooden bed, shelves filled with books, and a round window overlooking the valley. The night sky outside was clear and filled with stars. Oliver opened the window and leaned against the frame. Cool air drifted into the room. Below, he could hear the river moving quietly through the darkness. For several minutes, everything felt perfectly normal. Then the wind arrived. At first, it was little more than a soft breeze brushing against the window. Leaves rustled outside. Branches swayed gently. Oliver closed his eyes and listened. The breeze grew stronger. The air felt colder. And then he heard it. A voice. It was so faint that he almost thought he had imagined. It's fine. Oliver's eyes snapped open. The voice vanished. His heart began to race. He leaned closer to the open window. The wind swirled around the cottage once more. Again, the whisper came. This time, it was clearer. Find the lantern. Oliver stood frozen. The words drifted through the darkness like a secret, carried from a distant world. "Who's there?" he whispered. No answer came, only silence. Then, the wind returned one final time. Its voice sounded older now, wiser, almost urgent. "Find the lantern before the moon grows dim." Whisper faded. The night became still. Oliver remained motionless beside the window. His pulse thundered in his ears. He knew what he had heard. The voice had been real. He could feel it. Slowly, he looked upward toward the sky. The moon had just risen above the distant hills. It hung large and golden in the darkness. For a moment, everything seemed normal. Then the impossible happened. The moon flickered just once. Its light dimmed briefly before returning again. Like a candle struggling against an unseen breeze, Oliver stared in disbelief. Never in his life had he seen anything like it. The moon had always been constant dot, reliable, eternal. Yet now it seemed weaker, somehow, as though something were draining its light. A chill ran through him. He thought about the strange voice, the lantern, the warning, and suddenly the pieces felt connected. That night Oliver lay awake in bed long after midnight. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw the flickering moon. Every time he tried to convince himself it had been his imagination, he remembered the voice in the wind. Hours passed. Clouds drifted across the sky outside his window. Occasionally, moonlight slipped through the glass and illuminated the room in pale silver. Eventually, exhaustion pulled him into a restless sleep. The next morning, Willowmere seemed strangely different. People moved more slowly than usual. Several villagers yawned constantly. Children appeared unusually tired. Even Emma looked exhausted when Oliver saw her near the village square. "You look terrible," she said. Oliver laughed. "You don't look much better." Emma rubbed her eyes. "I had strange dreams all night." "What kind of dreams?" "I can't remember," she frowned. "That's the strange part." As the day continued, Oliver overheard similar conversations everywhere. The baker complained about sleeping badly. The fisherman said he couldn't remember a single dream. Even the village doctor admitted that many people had reported the same thing. Nobody understood what was happening, but Oliver suspected the answer was connected to the moon. As evening approached, he returned to the old oak tree. The setting sun painted the valley in shades of gold, while long shadows stretched across the fields. Sitting beneath the ancient branches, Oliver stared toward the distant horizon. The world suddenly felt much larger than it had the day before. Somewhere beyond those hills, a mystery was waiting. Somewhere beyond those forests and mountains, A lantern existed, and somehow, for reasons he could not yet understand, the wind had chosen him to find it. A gentle breeze brushed against his face. This time, it carried no words, only a feeling that seemed to whisper, "The journey is about to begin." As darkness settled over Willowmere, and the first stars appeared in the sky, Oliver made a decision. He would discover the truth about the lantern. He would learn why the moon was fading. And no matter where the answers led him, he would follow them, high above the sleeping valley. The moon watched silently from the heavens, and for the briefest moment, its light seemed just a little dimmer than before. The following morning, Oliver woke before sunrise for a few moments. He lay still in bed, listening to the familiar sounds of Willowmere. Birds were beginning to sing outside his window. Somewhere in the distance, a rooster announced the arrival of a new day. The river flowed quietly beyond the village, just as it always had, yet nothing felt normal anymore. The memory of the voice still echoed in his mind. "Find the lantern before the moon grows." Dim, Oliver sat up and looked toward the window. The moon was still visible in the pale morning sky, hanging low above the western hills. Again, he noticed something unsettling. It seemed weaker, not enough for most people to notice, but enough for him. A cold feeling settled in his stomach. He quickly dressed and hurried downstairs. His parents were already awake. His mother was baking bread while his father prepared for a day on the river. "You seem eager this morning," his mother said. Oliver hesitated. He wanted to tell them everything. The voice, the moon, the warning. But somehow he knew they wouldn't understand. "Not yet. I need to visit Grandma Elara," he said. His father raised an eyebrow. The storyteller. Oliver nodded. Grandma Elara was the oldest person in Willowmere. Nobody knew her exact age. Some villagers claimed she was 80. Others insisted she was over 100. She lived alone in a small cottage covered in ivy near the edge of the forest. Children loved visiting her because she always had stories to tell, stories about forgotten kingdoms, magical creatures, ancient heroes, and distant lands. But there was something else about Grandma Elara. People trusted her whenever strange things happened. They often sought her advice. His mother smiled. "Tell her I said hello." "I will." A few minutes later, Oliver left the cottage and began walking toward the forest. The morning air was cool and fresh. Dew sparkled on the grass. Golden sunlight slowly spread across the valley. Normally, Oliver loved mornings like this. Today. However, his thoughts were elsewhere. He couldn't stop thinking about the moon, or the lantern, or the feeling that something enormous was beginning to unfold. Soon, he reached Grandma Elara's cottage. The little house looked exactly as it always had. Wild roses climbed its stone walls, wind chimes hung beside the door. Colorful flowers bloomed in every corner of the garden, yet somehow the place always felt mysterious, as though it existed halfway between the ordinary world and something older. Oliver knocked. A cheerful voice answered. Immediately, "I've been expecting you." Blinked. The door opened before he could respond. Grandma Elara stood smiling in the doorway. Her silver hair flowed down her shoulders. Her bright eyes seemed to sparkle with secrets. "Come in, Oliver." He stepped inside. The cottage smelled of herbs, old books, and wood smoke. Shelves covered every wall. Hundreds of books filled them from floor to ceiling. Maps, strange objects, and ancient-looking artifacts rested on tables and shelves. It felt less like a cottage and more like a museum of forgotten history. Grandma Elara motioned toward a chair. "You've come because of the moon." Oliver froze. "How did you know?" She smiled. "Because you're not the first." His eyes widened. Elara poured tea into 2 cups before answering. "For the past 3 nights, people have complained about strange dreams." Oliver nodded. "I heard, and last night," she continued, "you heard a voice." The room suddenly felt very quiet. Oliver stared at her. "You know about that too?" Grandma Elara sighed. "I was afraid this day would come." Oliver leaned forward. "What is happening?" For a long moment, she said nothing. Then she stood and walked toward a large wooden chest hidden beneath a dusty blanket. The chest looked ancient. Its surface was carved with symbols Oliver didn't recognize. Slowly, she lifted the lid. Inside lay dozens of old scrolls. Carefully, she removed one. The parchment was yellow with age. The edges were worn and fragile. She brought it to the table and unrolled it. Oliver immediately realized it wasn't an ordinary map. The parchment showed mountains, forests, rivers, deserts, and oceans unlike any he had ever seen. Some places were marked with strange symbols. Others carried names written in faded ink. Near the center of the map stood a single image, a lantern drawn in silver ink. Even after centuries, it seemed to glow. Oliver stared. The lantern. Grandma Elara nodded slowly. The Moonkeeper's lantern. The name sent a strange shiver through him. "What is it?" Elara sat down. Outside, the wind rattled the windows softly. The story begins more than 1,000 years ago. Oliver listened carefully. Long before Willowmere existed, she continued. The world faced a great darkness. The moon was fading. His heart skipped a beat, just like now. The people of that age were terrified. Without moonlight, nights became colder. Dreams grew weaker. Fear spread across the land. Oliver frowned. What do dreams have to do with the moon? Ilara smiled sadly. More than most people realize. She pointed toward the lantern on the map. According to the oldest legends, the moon receives its light from a magical lantern. Oliver blinked. The moon is powered by a lantern. It sounds impossible, Ilara admitted. But many impossible things are true, she continued. The lantern was protected by a guardian known as the Moonkeeper. The Moonkeeper traveled between worlds, maintaining the balance between darkness and light. Oliver looked down at the map. What happened? For the first time, Ilara seemed worried. Nobody knows. The Moonkeeper vanished. Centuries ago, the lantern was hidden. The story became a legend. Silence filled the room. Oliver studied the map. 1,000 questions filled his mind. Then another thought occurred to him. If it's only a legend. Grandma. Ilara interrupted gently. Then why is the moon fading again? Oliver had no answer. Neither did she, for several moments. They sat quietly. The wind outside grew stronger. Branches scraped softly against the cottage walls. Then Ilara reached across the table. Her fingers touched the map. I believe the lantern is real, Oliver swallowed. And I believe it is failing. Chill moved through him. What happens if it goes out? Ilara's eyes drifted. Window. The world won't end overnight. But dreams will disappear. Hope will fade. Fear will grow stronger. The balance that protects our world will slowly unravel. Oliver suddenly remembered the exhausted villagers, the forgotten dreams, the strange feeling hanging over Willowmere. Perhaps it had already begun. What can we do? Grandma Ilara looked directly at him. You must find it. Oliver stared. Me. The wind chose you. His heart raced. Why? I don't know. She smiled softly. Magic rarely explains itself. She rolled up the map. Then she placed it in Oliver's hands. The old parchment felt surprisingly warm, almost alive. You'll need this. Oliver looked down at it. The weight felt heavier than parchment should. Not physically, emotionally, like holding the first piece of a destiny he never asked for. "Not a hero," he whispered. Grandma Ilara laughed gently. "That's usually how heroes begin." Oliver looked uncertain. "What if I fail?" Ilara's expression softened. "Then at least you'll have tried." The room fell silent again. Outside, clouds drifted across the sky. A cool breeze slipped through the cottage. The wind chimes near the door began to ring, soft, soft, musical, almost magical. And for just a moment, Oliver thought he heard a familiar whisper hidden within the sound. Not words, just encouragement, as if the wind itself approved of what was happening. Grandma Ilara stood and walked toward a shelf. She returned carrying a small brass compass. Its surface was covered with tiny silver markings. "This belonged to my grandfather." She placed it in Oliver's hand. "It points toward what is needed most." Oliver examined it. The needle spun briefly before settling. Not north, not south, but toward the eastern mountains beyond the valley. Grandma Ilara smiled. "Seems your journey already knows where to begin." Oliver looked at the map, then at the compass, then toward the distant hills visible through the window. Fear stirred inside him, but so did excitement for the first time in his life. The world beyond Willowmere felt real, vast, mysterious, full of possibilities. And somewhere out there, hidden beyond forests and mountains, the Moonkeeper's lantern waiting for someone to find it. Before the moon grew dim, as the afternoon sunlight poured through the cottage windows, Oliver finally understood one thing. His ordinary life was over, and his adventure had begun. The morning of Oliver's departure arrived sooner than he expected. For most of the night, he had barely slept. The ancient map rested on the small wooden desk beside his bed, while Grandma Ilara's strange compass lay next to it. Every time he closed his eyes, he imagined distant mountains, forgotten kingdoms, and the mysterious lantern hidden somewhere beyond the horizon. Yet beneath all the excitement, fear lingered. He had never traveled beyond the hills surrounding Willowmere. The world outside the village existed only in stories and maps. Now he was about to step into it alone. As dawn painted the sky with soft shades of pink and gold, Oliver quietly packed his belongings. He placed several loaves of bread into his backpack, along with a water flask, a blanket, a small knife for cutting rope and food, and a notebook he often used to record interesting thoughts. Finally, he carefully rolled up the map and slipped it inside. Before leaving his room, he paused. Everything looked ordinary. His bed, his bookshelf, the round window overlooking the river. For a moment, he wondered how long it would be before he saw them again. Then he took a deep breath and headed downstairs. His parents were already awake, to Oliver's surprise. They seemed to know exactly what was happening. His mother stood beside the kitchen table, her eyes filled with concern. His father sat quietly near the fireplace. Neither looked surprised to see the backpack. "We were wondering when you'd come downstairs," his father said. Oliver froze. "You knew?" His mother smiled sadly. "Grandma Elara visited us last night." Oliver's heart sank. "You aren't angry?" His father chuckled softly. "About what?" "Leaving." The older man stood and placed a hand on Oliver's shoulder. Every person reaches a moment when life asks them to step beyond what feels safe. Oliver looked down. "What if I'm not ready?" His father smiled. "Nobody is." For several seconds, nobody spoke. Then his mother wrapped him in a tight hug. "Come home when it's over." "I will." Though neither of them fully understood the adventure ahead, they believed in him, and somehow that made all the difference. A short while later, Oliver walked toward the village square. The sun had risen higher now, filling Willowmere with warm, golden light. Farmers worked in nearby fields. Shopkeepers opened their doors. Children chased each other along narrow roads. Everything appeared normal. Yet Oliver couldn't stop noticing how tired everyone looked. The baker yawned while arranging fresh bread. The blacksmith moved more slowly than usual. Even the village dogs seemed less energetic. The moon's fading light was already affecting the world. The realization strengthened his resolve. He couldn't turn back now. Near the village fountain, Emma waited. The moment she saw the backpack, she folded her arms. "So it's true," Oliver sighed. "Grandma Elara talks too much." She barely said anything. Emma stepped closer. "You're really leaving?" Oliver nodded for the first time. Neither of them knew what to say. They had spent nearly every day together since childhood. The thought of saying goodbye felt strangely difficult. Finally, Emma reached into her pocket and removed a small silver pendant shaped like a leaf. "My grandmother gave me this." Oliver blinked. "I can't take that." "Yes, you can." "No, I can't." Emma grabbed his hand and placed it in his palm. "You can." The pendant gleamed softly in the sunlight. "It's supposed to bring luck." Oliver smiled. "I thought you didn't believe in magical things." Emma grinned. "I don't." "Then why give it to me?" "Because someone has to keep you alive." For the first time that morning, Oliver laughed. When the laughter faded, Emma's smile softened. "Be careful." "I will." "And if you find this lantern, I'll come back." She nodded, double quotes, good. Neither mentioned the possibility that he might fail. Neither wanted to. A few minutes later, hills and forests. Behind him lay everything familiar, everything safe. For a moment, he hesitated. Then he began walking. By midday, the village had disappeared behind rolling hills. The landscape gradually changed. Open meadows gave way to dense woodland. Ancient trees rose toward the sky like towering pillars. Their branches intertwined overhead, forming a living roof of leaves. According to the map, this was the Whispering Forest. Oliver stopped near its edge, even from a distance. The forest felt different, older, wiser. The air itself seemed charged with something mysterious. A cool breeze drifted between the trees. Leaves rustled softly, and beneath the rustling, Oliver thought he heard voices, not clear voices, not words, just fragments, tiny whispers. The forest seemed alive. Slowly, he stepped beneath the shadow of the trees. Instantly, the outside world felt far away. Sunlight filtered through leaves in scattered beams of gold. Birds sang somewhere high above. The scent of moss and pine filled the air. Oliver followed a narrow path, winding deeper into the woods. Hours passed. The deeper he traveled, the stranger the forest became. At first, the whispers remained faint, almost impossible to understand. Then, gradually, they grew clearer. Oliver paused beside an enormous oak. A voice drifted through the leaves. "Welcome home." Another voice answered, "I miss you." Then laughter echoed briefly before fading away. Oliver's eyes widened. He looked around. Nobody was there. The voices came from the trees themselves. A sudden gust swept through the forest. Thousands of leaves began to rustle simultaneously. For one brief moment, the entire forest seemed to speak. Fragments of conversations filled the air. Songs, promises, goodbyes, stories, stories, voices from long ago. Then, silence returned. Oliver stood motionless. What was that? Memories. The answer came from behind him. Oliver nearly jumped out of his skin. He spun around. A fox sat calmly on a nearby rock. Its fur shimmered silver in the afternoon sunlight. Its golden eyes watched him with remarkable intelligence. For several seconds, neither moved. Then the fox yawned. "You look surprised." Oliver stared. "You can talk." "Of course I can." The fox tilted its head. "The interesting question is whether you can listen." Oliver blinked. The fox sounded almost annoyed. What? The fox hopped down from the rock. Humans always react the same way. You are a talking fox. Yes, and you're surprised, because foxes don't talk. The fox rolled its eyes. Oliver opened his mouth, then closed it again. The fox had a point. Finally, he managed to ask, "Who are you?" The fox sat proudly. "My name is Ash." Oliver stared. "Ash, wonderful name, isn't it? I suppose it was my mother's idea." Oliver wasn't entirely sure how to respond. The fox seemed amused by his confusion. "You're Oliver." This surprised him. "How do you know that?" Ash flicked his tail. "The forest knows. The forest. The whispering forest remembers everyone." Oliver looked around uneasily. "The trees know my name. The trees know many things." Ash stood and stretched. "They've been expecting you." Those words sent a chill through him. "Expecting me?" Ash nodded for quite some time. Oliver's heart began to beat faster. The journey suddenly felt larger than ever, as though invisible forces had been moving long before he arrived. "What exactly is this place?" he asked. Ash glanced upward. The sunlight was beginning to fade. Evening approached. The oldest forest in the world. He started walking down the path. "Come." "Where?" "You'll need somewhere safe to sleep." Oliver hesitated briefly before following. For reasons he couldn't explain, he trusted the fox. Perhaps it was the intelligence in Ash's eyes, or perhaps the forest itself seemed to approve. Together, they traveled deeper into the woods as darkness slowly settled between the ancient trees. Glowing flowers began to bloom among the roots. Soft blue lights appeared everywhere. The forest transformed into something magical, something dreamlike. Eventually, they reached a small clearing. At its center stood a crystal pool reflecting the first stars of evening. Ash stopped. "We'll stay here tonight." Oliver removed his backpack and sat beside the water. For a while, neither spoke. The forest hummed softly around them. Finally, Oliver broke the silence. "Grandma Elara said the lantern is hidden." Ash nodded. "It is. Do you know where?" "No," Lover sighed. "That's helpful." The fox chuckled. "I do know one thing." "What?" Ash's expression grew serious. "The lantern cannot be reached directly." Oliver frowned. "What do you mean?" "There are 8 gates." The words hung in the air. 8 gates. Ash nodded. "Ancient gates. Each one protects part of the path." Oliver stared into the pool. "How do I open them?" The fox smiled slightly. "Not with strength, not with weapons, not with magic." Oliver looked confused. "Then how?" Ash's golden eyes reflected the starlight. "With wisdom." The forest fell silent. Somewhere above them, the moon emerged between the branches. Its light touched the crystal water, and for the briefest moment, Oliver noticed something alarming. The moon looked dimmer than ever before. The race against time had begun, and somewhere, beyond the forest, the first of the 8 gates awaited. Oliver slept lightly beneath the ancient trees of the whispering forest. The crystal pool beside him reflected thousands of stars, and throughout the night, strange sounds drifted through the darkness. Sometimes he heard distant laughter. Sometimes he heard music so faint it seemed to come from another world. Once he thought he heard children playing somewhere among the trees. Though when he opened his eyes, there was nothing there except moonlight and shadows. Just before dawn, a dream came to him. He stood alone upon a hill overlooking Willowmere. The village appeared peaceful at first, but as he watched, something began to change. The moon above grew dimmer and dimmer, until only a pale silver outline remained. The stars disappeared one by one. Darkness spread across the valley like a slow-moving tide. The villagers looked frightened. Children stopped laughing. Windows closed. Lanterns flickered weakly against the growing shadows. Then Oliver noticed something even worse. People seemed to forget things. They forgot songs they once loved, forgot stories they had shared for years, forgot hopes they carried in their hearts. The darkness wasn't merely taking away light, it was taking away dreams. Oliver tried to shout, but no sound emerged. Suddenly, a voice whispered through the darkness, "Hurry." His eyes snapped open. Morning sunlight filtered through the trees. For several seconds, he sat motionless, breathing heavily. The dream felt far too real. Nearby, Ash, the fox, stretched lazily. "You look terrible," Oliver sighed. "Thanks, bad dream." Oliver nodded. Ash looked unusually serious. "Then you're beginning to understand what's at stake." Those words stayed with Oliver as they continued their journey deeper into the forest. The path grew narrower as the day progressed. Ancient trees towered overhead like silent guardians, their branches intertwined so tightly that only small patches of sunlight reached the forest floor. The whispers remained constant. Voices drifted through the leaves. Fragments of memories floated on the breeze. At first, Oliver found them unsettling. Eventually, he grew accustomed to them. By midday, the forest began to change. The trees became thinner. The air felt cooler. A faint blue glow appeared between the trunks. Ahead, Ash stopped. "We're close." Close to what? The first gate. Oliver immediately felt nervous. He had been thinking about the mysterious gates ever since Ash first mentioned them. What exactly is the first gate? Ash continued walking. You'll see, not a very helpful answer. A few minutes later, the trees suddenly opened into a vast clearing. Oliver stopped in amazement. Before them stretched the most beautiful lake he had ever seen. Its water shimmered like liquid sapphire. Beneath the sunlight, tiny silver lights danced across the surface. The shoreline curved gracefully between flowering hills, covered in blue and white blossoms. The entire place seemed almost unreal. For several moments, Oliver simply stared. It's beautiful, Ash nodded. Double quotes, yes. Then the fox's expression darkened and dangerous. Oliver looked at him. Dangerous. The lake of forgotten dreams. The name alone sounded mysterious. They walked toward the water's edge. As they approached, Oliver noticed something unusual. The lake was perfectly still. Not a single ripple disturbed. Its surface, it resembled a giant mirror. Slowly, he stepped closer. The water reflected the sky above with incredible clarity. Clouds drifted across its surface. Birds seemed to fly beneath it. And then something changed. The reflection shifted. Oliver blinked. Instead of seeing himself, he saw a different image, a future, or perhaps a possibility. He saw himself standing before cheering crowds. People celebrated his name. Songs were written about his adventures. Statues were built in his honor. He was famous, beloved, admired by everyone. The vision felt wonderful. For a moment, he couldn't look away. Then the image changed. Now he saw himself exploring distant lands, discovering hidden kingdoms, finding treasures beyond imagination. Again, the vision shifted. He saw himself possessing incredible wisdom. People traveled from across the world to seek his advice. Every dream, every desire, every secret wish, hidden deep inside his heart. The lake displayed them all. Oliver stepped closer. Without realizing it, he reached toward the water. The visions grew stronger, more vivid, more tempting. He could almost touch them, almost feel them. A sharp voice suddenly shattered the spell. Oliver. He jumped. Ash stood beside him. The fox looked alarmed. Step back. Oliver blinked. The visions vanished instantly. The lake became an ordinary reflection once more. What happened? Ash sat down. The lake was showing you what you wanted. Oliver frowned. It felt real. It always does. Has anyone ever fallen for it? Ash slowly nodded. Oliver looked across the water. For the first time, He noticed shapes beneath the surface, dozens of shapes, human figures frozen beneath the lake. His eyes widened. Are those people travelers? The fox's voice was quiet. They came searching for something and stayed searching forever. Oliver stared in horror. The figures appeared peaceful, almost happy, as though trapped inside beautiful dreams. They're alive. No. The answer came softly. The realization sent a chill through him. The lake wasn't merely showing dreams. It was imprisoning those who couldn't let go of them. The afternoon sun slowly crossed the sky. Oliver and Ash followed the shoreline. Eventually, they reached an ancient stone arch standing beside the water. The structure appeared incredibly old. Vines covered its surface. Silver symbols glowed faintly across the stone. The moment Oliver saw it, he knew. The first gate, a strange energy filled the air around it. Ash stopped walking. This as far as I can go. Oliver looked at him. What do I do? The fox sat quietly. The gate will ask a question, and then you answer. That's it. Ash smiled. Sometimes simple things are the hardest. Oliver wasn't sure he liked that answer. Slowly, he approached the arch. As soon as he stepped beneath it, the symbols began to glow brighter. The air grew still. The lake became perfectly silent. Then a voice emerged, not from the gate, not from the forest, but from everywhere at once. Ancient, powerful, timeless, traveler. Oliver swallowed. What is your greatest wish? The question echoed through the clearing dot. At first, the answer seemed obvious. He wanted adventure. He wanted knowledge. He wanted to save the moon. Yet, none of those felt completely true. The voice waited patiently. What is your greatest wish? Oliver looked toward the lake. The visions returned. Fame, glory, success, everything he could ever want, all within reach. For a brief moment, temptation pulled at him. Then he remembered Willowmere. He remembered Emma, his parents, the tired villagers, forgetting their dreams, the fading moon above the world. And suddenly, he understood. This journey wasn't about him. It never had been. He lifted his head. My greatest wish. The air seemed to hold its breath. Is for everyone to keep dreaming. Silence followed. The lake became still. The glowing symbols brightened. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then a deep, rumbling sound echoed. Across the clearing, the water began to move. Slowly at first, then faster. The center, the lake, parted. Oliver stared in amazement. The water separated like curtains, opening upon a stage. Beneath it appeared a pathway made of white stone. The path stretched directly across the lake toward the distant shore. The first gate had opened. A warm light flowed through the ancient arch. The voice spoke one final time. Selfless hearts may pass. The cymbals faded. The rumbling ceased. The lake grew quiet once more. Oliver turned toward Ash. The fox was smiling. "You answered correctly." Oliver exhaled slowly. "I almost didn't." Ash nodded. "That's why it was a test." For several moments, they stood beside the newly revealed path. The first challenge was over. Yet, Oliver knew many more awaited. He looked across the lake toward the distant horizon, beyond the far shore. Mountains rose beneath the fading afternoon sun. Somewhere beyond those mountains stood the second gate, and somewhere far beyond that, hidden among forgotten places and ancient secrets, waited the Moonkeeper's lantern dot. As the first stars appeared overhead, Oliver stepped onto the white stone path. Behind him, the waters of the lake of forgotten dreams shimmered beneath the fading light. Ahead lay the next stage of his journey. And though fear still lingered inside him, something else had begun to grow stronger: hope. The white stone path carried Oliver safely across the lake of forgotten dreams. For a long time, neither he nor Ash spoke. The events at the first gate lingered in Oliver's mind. He kept thinking about the question, "What is your greatest wish?" Only a few days earlier, he might have answered very differently. He might have wished for adventure, fame, or a life far beyond the quiet borders of Willowmere. Yet, standing before the gate, none of those things had seemed important. The journey was already changing him, and somehow, that realization felt both comforting and frightening. As evening approached, they finally reached the opposite shore. The forest ended abruptly. Beyond it stretched a vast mountain range, unlike anything Oliver had ever seen. Gigantic peaks pierced the clouds. Themselves, their snowy summits glowed silver beneath the fading sunlight. Waterfalls cascaded down steep cliffs. Narrow trails wound through rocky valleys. The sight stole Oliver's breath away. For the first time in his life, he truly understood how large the world was. "Those mountains are enormous." Ash glanced upward. "They're called the Sky Reach Mountains." Oliver frowned. "Have you been here before?" The fox's golden eyes sparkled. "A few times. A few times." Ash nodded casually. "I'm older than I look." Oliver wasn't entirely sure whether Ash was joking. That night, they camped beneath the stars at the foot of the mountains. The air was colder than before. A steady wind swept down from the high peaks, as Oliver sat beside a small campfire. He unfolded Grandma Ilara's map. The silver lantern still gleamed softly at the center. His eyes followed the route marked across forests, rivers, and mountains. According to the map, their next destination lay somewhere beyond Skyreach, a place labeled only with a symbol of clouds. No name, no explanation, just clouds. "Do you know what's there?" Oliver asked. Ash looked at the map. "The city above the clouds." Oliver blinked. "That's a real place." The fox smiled. "Tomorrow, you'll find out." That answer only created more questions. Eventually, exhaustion overcame curiosity. Oliver wrapped himself in his blanket and drifted to sleep beneath the stars. The climb began at sunrise. At first, the trail was easy. Rolling hills gradually became steeper slopes. Forests gave way to rocky terrain. The higher they climbed, the colder the air became by midday. Clouds drifted below them. Oliver had never imagined such a thing. The sight felt unreal. Looking down, he could barely see the valleys beneath the sea of white mist. Hours passed. The climb grew harder. His legs ached. His shoulders hurt. More than once, he wondered whether turning back would be easier. Yet every time, doubt appeared. He remembered the fading moon. The image pushed him onward. Near sunset, they reached a narrow mountain pass. Massive cliffs rose on both sides. A cold wind howled through the gap as they emerged from the pass. Oliver suddenly stopped. His mouth fell open. Before them floated an entire city. Suspended above the clouds, the city above the clouds appeared impossible. Beautiful towers of crystal and white stone rose toward the heavens. Bridges connected floating platforms. Golden domes reflected sunlight. Gardens bloomed upon rooftops. Water flowed through sparkling canals suspended in midair. The city seemed to float effortlessly upon enormous silver clouds. Oliver stared in disbelief. "That's impossible." Ash sat beside him. "Many important places are." For several moments, Oliver simply admired the view. The city looked like something from a dream, like a kingdom built by stars. Yet, as they approached, he noticed something strange. The city felt quiet, too quiet. There was no laughter, no music, no conversations, nothing, only silence. The gates stood open. No guards waited nearby. No merchants crowded the entrance. No children played in the streets. As Oliver stepped inside, an uneasy feeling settled over him. People were everywhere, hundreds of them. Yet something seemed wrong, very wrong. Citizens walked slowly through the streets. Their faces appeared motionless. Shopkeepers sat motionless beside their stalls. Workers performed tasks mechanically. Nobody smiled. Nobody laughed. Nobody even seemed curious. The city felt alive, yet somehow lifeless. Oliver glanced at Ash. What's wrong with them? The fox looked unusually serious. They've forgotten. Forgotten what? Ash didn't answer immediately. Instead, he pointed toward a giant tower standing at the city's center. At its summit rested a massive clock, or rather, what should have been a clock. The enormous hands stood perfectly still, frozen, UNMOVING. Oliver frowned. The clock is broken. Ash nodded. And so is the city. As they traveled deeper into the streets, Oliver noticed more strange details. Every clock he saw had stopped. Large clocks, small clocks, tower clocks, pocket watches, all frozen at exactly the same moment. Even the bells hanging throughout the city remained silent. Time itself seemed trapped. Eventually, they reached a small dough workshop near the central square. Unlike everyone else, the elderly man inside looked genuinely surprised to see visitors. His eyes widened. You can still smile. Oliver blinked. What? The old man stood slowly. You smiled. His voice trembled. I haven't seen someone smile in years. The statement shocked Oliver. Years. The man nodded sadly. My name is Rowan. Oliver introduced himself after hearing their story. Rowan invited them inside. The workshop was filled with clocks, hundreds of them. Every single one had stopped. Rowan sighed. It happened many years ago. What happened? Oliver asked. The old clockmaker looked toward the window. The heart clock stopped. Oliver frowned. The heart clock. Rowan nodded. The machine that keeps time flowing. Ash quietly lowered his head. He already knew the story. Rowan continued. When the heart clock stopped, people gradually lost their connection to time. Oliver listened carefully. They still work, they still eat, they still sleep. But they no longer understand why. The old man's eyes filled with sadness. They've forgotten how to celebrate. They've forgotten how to dream about tomorrow. They've forgotten the joy of new beginnings. The description reminded Oliver of Willowmere, of fading dreams, of the moon. Everything seemed connected. That evening, Rowan led them beneath the city. Ancient staircases spiraled downward through stone tunnels. Eventually, they reached a gigantic chamber. Oliver gasped. At the center stood the largest clock he had ever seen. Massive gears filled the room. Golden mechanisms stretched from floor to ceiling. Silver pendulums hung. Motionless. Dust covered everything. Silence dominated the chamber. The heart clock had indeed stopped for centuries. It had likely been magnificent. Now it resembled a sleeping giant. Oliver approached cautiously. What happened? Rohan pointed toward the center mechanism. A single broken gear rested there, small compared to the rest. Yet without it, nothing could move. Oliver stared. That's all. The old clockmaker nodded. Everyone thought repairing it was impossible. Why? Because they stopped believing it mattered. The answer hit Oliver harder than expected. The clock wasn't broken because nobody could fix it. It remained broken because nobody cared enough to try. Hope had faded. Just like the moon, for hours they worked. Together, Rowan searched through old tools. Oliver helped clean dust from the mechanisms. Ash carried small parts where needed. Slowly, the heart clock began to look alive again. Finally, Rowan lifted a newly crafted gear. The replacement. His hands trembled as he placed it into position. Silence filled the chamber. Everyone held their breath. The gear clicked into place. Nothing happened. For one terrible moment, Oliver feared. Then, tick, a tiny sound echoed through the room. Another followed. Tick, tick, tick. The gears began turning. Slowly at first, then faster. The pendulums started swinging. Golden wheels rotated. The heart clock awakened. A deep bell suddenly rang throughout the city. Then another. The sound echoed across the clouds. Power surged through every mechanism above them. Thousands of clocks sprang back to life. For the first time in years, time moved once more. When Oliver emerged into the city streets, something incredible had happened. People were smiling. Children were laughing. Musicians played instruments. Merchants spoke excitedly with customers. The city seemed transformed, alive again. Hope had returned. As sunset painted the clouds with gold and crimson, a brilliant light appeared above the central square. Silver symbols formed in the air. The second gate, its voice echoed across the city. Those who restore hope may continue. The gate opened. A pathway of starlight appeared beyond it. Oliver stared in amazement. 2 gates were now behind him. 6 remained, and somewhere far away, the Moonkeeper's lantern continued to fade. The journey was becoming more difficult, but for the first time since leaving Willowmere, Oliver felt something powerful growing inside him. Confidence. Perhaps he wasn't merely following a path. Perhaps he was becoming the person the path required him to be. As night settled over the city above the clouds and the restored clocks chimed across the heavens. Oliver looked toward the distant horizon. The next challenge awaited, and the adventure continued. The bells of the city above the clouds continued ringing long into the night. For the first time in many years, the city was alive. Music drifted through the streets. Children chased one another across crystal bridges. Lanterns glowed warmly from windows. People laughed, celebrated, and shared stories beneath the stars. The city no longer felt trapped. Time was flowing once more. Yet, while everyone else celebrated, Oliver stood alone on a balcony overlooking the endless sea of clouds. Far above him, the moon hung in the sky. He immediately noticed something that made his heart sink. It had grown dimmer again. The change was small, almost impossible to see, but it was there. The lantern was still fading, and time was running out. "You're thinking too much." Oliver turned. Ash sat calmly on the balcony railing. The fox's silver fur shimmered in the moonlight. Oliver sighed. "Am I that easy to read?" "Very." The fox jumped down. "You've opened 2 gates. Most travelers never open one." Oliver looked toward the horizon. 6 more remain." Ash nodded. "Then we'd better get moving." At sunrise, Rowan and the citizens gathered to say goodbye. The old clockmaker handed Oliver a small silver token shaped like a clock. "A reminder," Rowan said. "A reminder of what?" "Even the smallest thing can restart something much larger." Oliver smiled and carefully placed the token inside his backpack. Then he and Ash continued their journey beyond the city. Above the clouds lay an even greater challenge: the Mountain of Stars, according to the map. The 3rd gate rested somewhere upon its summit. As they traveled, the landscape gradually changed once more. The clouds disappeared behind them. The air grew colder. The trails became steeper. Snow appeared along distant ridges, and every night the stars seemed brighter than before. By the 3rd day of climbing, Oliver noticed something unusual. The stars didn't merely shine above the mountain. They seemed connected to it. Tiny streams of silver. Light flowed between the heavens and the rocky slopes. It was as though the mountain itself was woven from starlight. "Do you see that?" Oliver asked. Ash nodded. "Everyone does." "How is it possible?" The fox smiled. "Not everything needs explaining." Oliver groaned. "To, you say that a lot, because it's true." On the 4th evening, they reached a high plateau. The sight waiting there stole Oliver's breath away. A staircase rose from the center of the mountain, but it wasn't made of stone, or dot, or crystal. The staircase was made entirely of starlight. Thousands of glowing silver steps climbed toward the heavens. The staircase seemed endless. Each step shimmered softly beneath the dark sky. And somewhere far above, hidden among stars and clouds, waited the third gate. Oliver stared upward. That's a lot of stairs. Ash sat down. Indeed, how many? The fox shrugged. No one knows. Oliver looked at him suspiciously. You're not coming. Shook his head. This part is yours. That answer immediately made Oliver nervous. Why? Because the staircase shows only what you need to see. The fox's golden eyes grew serious. And some paths must be walked alone. After resting for the night, Oliver began the climb at dawn. The first few steps seemed normal. The starlight felt solid beneath his feet. The air remained calm. Nothing unusual happened. Then he reached the 10th step. A flash of silver light surrounded him. Suddenly, he was no longer standing on the staircase. Instead, he found himself reliving a memory. He was 6 years old again, standing beside the river near Willowmere. A group of older boys laughed nearby. One of them had fallen into the shallow water while trying to show off. Oliver remembered exactly what happened next. He had laughed too, not because the boy was hurt, because everyone else was laughing. The memory faded. The staircase returned. Oliver blinked. What was that? The mountain offered no answer. He continued climbing. 20 more steps, another flash, another memory. This time, he saw Emma. Years ago, she had asked for his help. Carrying supplies from the market, Oliver had refused because he wanted to spend the afternoon reading. She carried everything herself. He remembered feeling guilty afterward. The memory vanished. The staircase returned. A strange realization began forming inside him. The mountain wasn't showing random moments. It was showing regrets. The higher he climbed, the more difficult the memories became. Mistakes, failures, moments he wished he could change. Times he had disappointed others. Times he had disappointed himself. Some memories were small. Others hurt far more dark. Hours passed. The staircase continued upward. Memory after memory unfolded around him. Eventually, Oliver reached a point where he wanted to stop. His legs hurt. His heart felt heavy. The mountain seemed determined to force him to confront every flaw he possessed. At last, another vision appeared, and this one struck harder than all the others. He saw himself standing beneath the old oak only a few weeks earlier. A younger child had approached him. The boy wanted to hear one of Oliver's stories. Oliver remembered being annoyed. He wanted to be alone. So, he had told the child to leave. The boy's face fell. Then he walked away. The vision lingered longer than the others. Oliver felt ashamed. Such a small moment, yet he had never forgotten it. The memory faded. The staircase returned for the first time. Oliver stopped climbing. He sat on a glowing step and buried his face in his hands. "I can't do this." The words echoed softly across the mountain. "I'm not good enough." Every mistake, every regret, every failure, the weight felt overwhelming. Perhaps the gate had been wrong. Perhaps the wind had chosen the wrong person. Maybe someone braver should have found the lantern. Someone wiser, someone better. For several minutes he sat there in silence. The stars shimmered. Overhead, cold winds swept across the mountain. And then a voice spoke, not from the staircase, not from the sky, but from somewhere nearby. Interesting. Oliver looked up. An old traveler stood several steps above him. He wore a gray cloak covered in tiny silver stars. His long white beard moved gently in the wind. Oliver frowned. "Who are you?" The traveler smiled. "A question for another time." Oliver groaned. Everyone seemed to answer questions that way. The old man sat beside him. "You wish to quit?" Oliver looked away. "No." The traveler raised an eyebrow. "Really?" Oliver sighed. "Maybe." The old man nodded. "Most people do." For a while, they watched the stars together. Finally, the traveler spoke again. "The mountain isn't showing you your failures." Oliver blinked. Double quotes. "Yes, it is." "No." "Then what is it showing?" The old man's smile returned. "It's showing you that you're human." Oliver frowned. "I don't understand." The traveler pointed toward the staircase below. "Every person makes mistakes. Every person has regrets. Every person carries fears." Oliver remained silent. The old man continued. "The foolish pretend they have none. The wise accept them." Those words lingered in the cold mountain air. Oliver stared upward toward the distant summit. "So, what am I supposed to do?" The traveler looked directly at him. "Courage," Oliver sighed. "I've heard that before." The old man's eyes sparkled. "Then perhaps it's time to understand it." He stood. The stars around him seemed brighter now. Courage is not climbing without fear. The wind whispered across the staircase. Courage is climbing despite fear. The sentence struck Oliver harder than any lesson he'd heard during the journey. Suddenly, everything became clear. The mountain wasn't asking him to be perfect. It wasn't asking him to erase his mistakes. It was asking him to continue anyway, to move forward despite them, to keep climbing. Oliver stood, the weight in his chest felt lighter now. The regrets remained, the memories remained, but they no longer controlled him. He resumed climbing, step hour after hour. The staircase stretched endlessly toward the heavens. Yet now, every step felt easier, not physically, but emotionally. He accepted the memories, learned from them, carried them with him, and continued upward at last. Just as the sun began to set, he reached the summit. A circle of silver stones stood beneath the stars. At its center floated the third gate. The symbols surrounding it glowed brilliantly. The ancient voice echoed across the mountaintop. Those who accept their fears may pass. The gate opened instantly. No question, no challenge. The mountain had already provided the test. A pathway of starlight extended beyond the summit. The third gate was open. Oliver smiled. Far below, the world stretched endlessly toward the horizon. 3 gates stood behind him. 5 remained ahead, and somewhere beyond those distant lands, the Moonkeeper's lanterns still waited. The journey was far from over, but for the first time, Oliver truly believed he could reach the end. When the third gate opened, the pathway of starlight stretched far beyond the summit of the mountain of stars. Oliver stood quietly for a moment, staring at the glowing road ahead. The journey had already changed him. He was no longer the boy who had spent his days sitting beneath the old oak in Willowmere, wondering about the world beyond the hills. He had crossed the lake of forgotten dreams. He had restored the heart clock in the city. Above the clouds, he had climbed the mountain of stars and faced his own fears. Yet, as he looked toward the distant horizon, he sensed that his greatest challenge still waited ahead. The moon above seemed weaker than ever. Its silver glow was fading, and with it, the dreams of the world. Ash appeared beside him. For once, the fox looked unusually serious. "We're close." Oliver nodded. "How close?" Ash glanced toward the sky. "Closer than anyone has been in centuries." Together, they stepped onto the pathway. Immediately, the stars around them brightened. The world below began to disappear. Mountains faded into mist. Clouds drifted. Beneath them, the air shimmered with silver light. It felt as though they were walking through the night sky itself. Hours seemed to pass, or perhaps only minutes. Time behaved strangely here. Eventually, the pathway ended, and what lay beyond made Oliver stop in awe. Before them stretched a realm unlike anything he had ever imagined. Silver rivers flowed through fields of glowing grass. Ancient trees shone with soft moonlight instead of leaves. Countless stars drifted lazily through the air like fireflies. The sky itself appeared alive. Streams of silver light moved across the heavens like enormous rivers. Everything glowed gently. Everything felt peaceful, yet beneath that beauty, something felt wrong. A shadow lingered over the realm. Aheavines, like a storm waiting just beyond sight. This is the Moonkeeper's realm, Ash said quietly. Oliver looked around. The lantern is here. The fox nodded. Somewhere, they continued forward. The landscape gradually changed. The silver fields became darker. The glowing trees appeared weaker. The stars drifting through the air seemed fewer in number. It was as though darkness had. And then Oliver saw them, shadows, hundreds of them, not ordinary shadows. These moved on their own. They drifted across the ground like living smoke. Some seemed frightened. Others appeared lost. Many simply wandered without purpose. What are they? Ash lowered his head. Forgotten hopes. The answer sent a chill through Oliver. The shadows weren't monsters. They were pieces of dreams. Pieces of hope, lost and abandoned over countless years. The fading moon was affecting everything, even this place, as evening approached. They reached a vast valley. The moment Oliver saw it, he knew they had found the source of the darkness. At the center stood an enormous fortress made entirely of black stone. The structure rose toward the sky like a mountain of shadows. Dark clouds circled above it. Lightning flashed silently within the storm. The sight felt wrong, like a wound in the middle of a beautiful painting. Ash stopped. Walking, his tail lowered, his ears flattened. For the first time since meeting him, the fox looked genuinely afraid. Oliver noticed immediately. What is it? Ash stared at the fortress. The Shadow Collector. The name sounded familiar. Grandma Ilara had mentioned it long ago. A being from ancient legends. A creature that fed upon fear. Oliver swallowed. It's real. Ash nodded. Very real. Silence followed. Cold winds swept across the valley. The fortress loomed in the distance, waiting, watching. Oliver tightened his grip on the silver pendant Gemma had given him. Then he began walking. The gates of the fortress stood open. No guards waited nearby. No traps blocked the entrance. The emptiness felt unsettling, as though the Shadow Collector knew he was coming. Inside, vast hallways stretched endlessly through darkness. Black stone reflected faint traces of moonlight. The silence felt almost alive. Every footstep echoed. Every breath seemed louder than normal. Eventually, they reached a gigantic chamber. Oliver immediately stopped. At the center stood a figure, tall, motionless, wrapped in darkness. Its body appeared, made of living shadows. Silver eyes glowed beneath a hood of black mist. The chamber grew colder, much colder. The figure slowly raised its head. So, its voice echoed like distant thunder. The chosen traveler finally arrives. Oliver felt his heart race. "You know who I am." The shadow collector laughed softly. "I have watched your journey from the beginning." The sound chilled him more than the cold. The creature stepped forward. Darkness moved with it. The shadows along the floor seemed eager to obey its commands. "You've come for the lantern." Lover nodded. Double quotes, yes. The silver eyes brightened. "And you believe you can save the moon?" The question carried no anger, only amusement, as though the idea itself were ridiculous. "I have to try." The shadow collector smiled. A terrible smile. Hope. It shook its head. Humans never stop clinging to it. The creature began circling slowly around the chamber. Its voice echoed from every direction. "You think dreams make people strong. You think hope saves them. You think courage matters." Oliver remained silent. The shadow collector stopped. "You're wrong." Darkness spread across the floor. The chamber vanished. Suddenly, Oliver stood inside another vision. A powerful illusion. He saw people arguing, kingdoms at war, friends betraying one another, families grieving. He saw fear, failure, loss, every painful part of life. The vision surrounded him. The shadow collector's voice echoed through it all. "This is the truth. Fear rules every heart. Fear controls every choice. Fear always wins." For a moment, Oliver struggled to respond. The images felt real. The suffering felt real. Part of him wanted to look away. But then he remembered something. The villagers of Willowmere. The citizens of the city above the clouds. Emma, his parents. Grandma, Ela, Rowan, Ash, all. The people he had met. Yes, fear existed. But so did something else. He lifted his head. "You're wrong." The illusion paused. The shadow collector's eyes narrowed. "Oh." Oliver took a step forward. "People are afraid. Sometimes they fail. Sometimes they make mistakes." The creature listened. "But they keep trying. Another step. They keep helping each other. Another step. They keep hoping." The darkness trembled. "They keep dreaming." The vision shattered. the chamber returned. For the first time, the shadow collector looked uncertain, only slightly, but enough. A la growl echoed through the fortress. The creature's patience vanished. Darkness exploded from its body. Shadows flooded the chamber. Walls shook violently. The fortress trembled. The storm outside roared. Lightning flashed across the sky. The final battle had begun. The shadow collector rose above the ground. Its form expanded until it filled the room. Wings of darkness spread across the ceiling. Its silver eyes blazed like frozen stars. You understand nothing. The shadows surged toward Oliver. Fear filled his chest. For a moment, he thought he might collapse. The darkness carried every fear he had ever known. Every doubt, every regret, every insecurity. The creature fed upon them, used them, strengthened itself with them. Oliver could barely stand. Then he remembered the gates, the lessons, the journey, the lake of forgotten. Dreams had taught him selflessness. The city above the clouds had taught him hope. The mountain of stars had taught him courage. Each lesson remained inside him. Each lesson had prepared him for this moment. Slowly, he stood straighter. The fear remained, but it no longer controlled him. The shadows hesitated. The shadow collector noticed its expression changed. For the first time, it looked worried. Far above the fortress, the fading moon shone weakly through the storm clouds, and somewhere beyond the darkness, hidden within the heart of the Moonkeeper's realm, the ancient lantern waited. The final gate was near. The end of the journey approached, and for the first time since leaving Willowmere, Oliver realized something important. The shadow collector wasn't afraid of strength. It wasn't afraid of magic. It wasn't afraid of weapons. It was afraid of hope.
The shadow collector's roar still echoed through the fortress as darkness swirled violently around Oliver. But something had changed. For the first time since stepping into this realm, the shadows didn't feel unstoppable. They trembled. Not because Oliver had become stronger, but because he had stopped stepping back. Ash stood a few steps behind him, eyes locked on the towering figure of darkness. "Don't let it pull you in," the fox said quietly. "That's what it wants." Oliver nodded, though his hands were shaking. The shadow collector floated higher, its voice now deeper, colder. "You cannot win," it whispered. "Every hope ends the same way." In silence, the chamber darkened further. Then, suddenly, the floor beneath Oliver cracked open into another vision. He was back in Willowmere. But it was not the Willowmere he remembered. The village was silent. Empty. Home stood abandoned. The old oak tree had lost its leaves entirely. The river no longer flowed. And above it all, the moon hung like a dull, broken stone in the sky. No light. No warmth. No dreams. Oliver walked through the empty streets calling for Emma. Calling for his parents. But only silence answered. This was not just darkness. It was absence. The complete erasure of everything that made life meaningful. Behind him, the shadow collector's voice whispered through the illusion. This is what remains when hope dies. Oliver fell to his knees. For a moment, his chest tightened. This fear, this vision, felt heavier than anything before. But then he noticed something. A faint glow in his pocket. The pendant Emma had given him. It was still there. Still warm. Still real. He closed his fingers around it. And remembered her smile. Not the illusion. The real Emma. The real laughter. The real world. Slowly, he stood up again. No, he said quietly. The illusion flickered. The shadow collector paused. Oliver's voice grew stronger. This isn't the truth. The darkness rippled. You're showing me what happens if we stop trying. He stepped forward. But people don't stop. Another step. They fail, and they continue. Another step. They lose things, and they rebuild. The illusion began to crack. And even when everything feels gone, his grip tightened. Someone always tries again. The world shattered like glass. The fortress returned. The shadow collector staggered back slightly. For the first time, uncertainty turned into anger. Enough. The shadows exploded outward. The entire chamber became a storm of darkness. Ash was pushed back, sliding across the floor. Oliver, he shouted. But Oliver didn't step away this time. He stepped forward. Into the storm. Inside the darkness, memories collided with reality. Fear pressed against him from every direction. But now he understood something important. The shadow collector didn't create fear. It only fed on it. Fear already existed in every heart. The question was not how to remove it. The question was what you did with it. Oliver raised his head. And he walked straight through the shadows. At the center of the storm, the shadow collector hovered like a collapsing star. You should be broken by now, it growled. Why do you still stand? Oliver looked up at it. I'm afraid, he admitted. The creature hesitated. But I'm still here. Silence fell for a moment. Even the shadows paused. I've seen what happens when hope disappears, Oliver said. His voice was steady now. I've seen empty cities. Sleeping dreams. A fading moon. He took another step forward. And I won't let it end like that. The shadow collector's form trembled violently. Hope is fragile, it hissed. It always breaks. Oliver shook his head. No. He reached into his bag and pulled out the silver clock token from Rowan. Then the map from Grandma Ilara. Then Emma's pendant. 3 small things. 3 reminders. You think hope is weak, he said. But it survives things you can't understand. The objects began to glow softly. The shadows recoiled. For the first time, the darkness looked afraid. The chamber shook violently. Cracks of light spread across the walls. The shadow collector screamed, trying to drown everything in darkness. But something else was happening now. Far away, beyond the fortress. The Moonkeeper's lantern responded. A distant light awakened. Oliver felt it before he saw it. A pull. A call. He turned toward the center of the chamber. And there it was. Floating above a broken stone pedestal. The Moonkeeper's lantern. Small. Ancient. Beautiful. It wasn't large or dramatic. Just a simple lantern made of silver glass and soft glowing metal. But inside it burned a light that felt older than the stars. The true light of the moon. Oliver stepped forward. The shadow collector screamed. "Don't touch it." The entire fortress shook. But it was too late. Oliver reached out and held the lantern. The moment his fingers touched it, everything stopped. The darkness froze. The storm vanished. Even time itself seemed to pause. A gentle voice filled the chamber. Not the shadow collector. Not Ash. Not Oliver. Something else. Older. Calmer. Kinder. "Why have you come, young traveler?" Oliver held the lantern carefully. "To save the moon," he said. The light inside the lantern shimmered. "And why does the moon need saving?" Oliver thought for a moment. Then answered honestly. "Because people need their dreams." Silence. Then, softly. "Even if it costs you everything?" Oliver hesitated. For the first time, he truly understood the weight of what he was holding. Restoring the moon meant restoring hope to the world. But also letting go of the journey. Letting go of something inside him that had grown during every step. Still. He nodded. Yes. The lantern's light brightened. The shadow collector let out one final, broken sound. And then it began to dissolve. Not in anger. Not in defeat. But in emptiness. Without fear to feed on. It could not survive. The fortress collapsed into light. The darkness broke apart like dust in wind. Ash ran forward, shielding his eyes. Oliver. But Oliver was no longer standing in a broken fortress. He was standing somewhere else entirely. A vast sky filled with stars. And in his hands, the Moonkeeper's lantern. Far above the world, the moon began to change. For the first time in a long time. It brightened. Silver light poured across the sky like a river returning home. Villages lit up. Dreams returned. People slept peacefully. And somewhere far away, Willowmere bathed in soft moonlight once again. Oliver stood quietly in the sky. Ash beside him. The lantern glowing gently in his hands. A final presence appeared in front of him. Not a creature. Not a shadow. But a figure made of moonlight. The last Moonkeeper. "You have restored what was lost," it said. Oliver looked down. "Is it over?" The Moonkeeper smiled. "For the world, yes." Then it added softly. "But every light needs a keeper." Oliver understood immediately. He looked at Ash. The fox smiled slightly. "I told you," Ash said. "Some paths are walked alone." Oliver looked at the lantern. Then at the world below. And finally nodded. "I'll stay." And so the moon was healed. The lantern remained lit. And Oliver became something more than a boy from Willowmere. He became part of the sky itself. A guardian of dreams. Far below, in a quiet village between hills and rivers, a boy was still remembered. Not as someone who left, but as someone who saved the night. And every time the wind moved through the old oak tree, it whispered a story of a boy who listened and changed the world.